Hello, my name is Tomato Basil Girl. I speak for the tomatoes. We are doing. My hair looks awful. You just have to listen. I have thick curly hair. You have to accept it will never look good. Ever. Not a day in my life. So if you let me take the little bit that's up down. Ow. Owie! Oh my god, owie! Anyways, the point is, if you comment on my hair, you want all gay people to die. That includes unsolicited advice of how I should be doing my hair. If you comment that too, you also want all gay people to die. Anyways, today we are doing a review of Landline by Rowell. And I know you're asking, Alexis, isn't that a Christmas book? I can tell by the mistletoe. That's not mistletoe. What is that? I don't know, but it's cute. I can tell by the not mistletoe. And I would like to say, yep, it is. It is. It is. And I read it in March, so. And I don't even like Christmas. Really. At all. Anyways, before I get into this review, I want to talk about why I'm filming this video and kind of my goals for this channel and goals for the future. Basically, I had a YouTube channel when I was like, I stopped it when I was 18. I started it when I was 16. It got weird. I definitely overshared, overstepped, and also the only people who were following me were similar to our US president in the way that they liked children. And if that, maybe I shouldn't say that on my public account. Job, if you're watching this, don't fire me. Anyways, so I quit, and now I'm back here to start a book media filled YouTube channel. The reason, I just wanted to do it for fun, but now I have an actual reason behind it. So basically, there's a couple ways you can get ARCs, which is an advanced reader's copy of books, and I was never really interested until recently when I saw one, and I'm determined to get it. So one of the ways you can get it is either being a librarian or a bookseller. You can get it through there, which is a goal of mine. I would like to either, the bookstores closest to me are Bookman's or Half Price Books. I'm a Half Price Books girly. I like Bookman's, but I'm a Half Price Books girly. My goal is to work at Half Price Books. But I also am going to start volunteering at the library soon. And I am going to hopefully work there one day. And then the ultimate goal is to be published and write my own books. I'm working on a collection of poetry right now. That's kind of my main focus. But I also would love to do collections of essays and fantasy novels and romance novels are what I'm most interested in. Currently trying to figure out everything with my debut novel. So that's the goal. However, until then, I really want an arc of Tempest by Victoria. She wrote Red Queen. Her. I really want that gay pirate book. I really want that gay pirate book. I really need that gay pirate book. I like pirates. They're one of my favorite tropes in fantasy. I know fae and dragons are really popular right now. I love that too. I love, not so much dragons, but the fae. I love fairies. I don't know if fae aren't fairies, but like, basically. And if that offends you, I'm sorry, but like, basically. Love them, love that, but also pirates are so fun. Pirates are so fun. I actually have I have 2 fantasy series I would like to write in the future. One's a low fantasy and one's a high fantasy. And my low fantasy involves pirates, because I just think pirates are so much fun. And I've never really read a pirate book, so I really want to get it as an arc because it doesn't come out till September, so I really want to get it as an arc. I know realistically I probably won't, however, so that's that. Anyways, so basically I just have to do more book reviews and talk about books more. So this is a book review. Yeah, Landline by Rowell. So how I'm gonna split this up is I'm going to split this up into like my background with Rowell and Landline, because this is my third time reading the book, and it's a 5-star every single time. And second, what the book's about, and third, spoilers. So listen, I'm not gonna tell you like, oh, go read this book and then come back to this video, because I personally love spoilers. I love knowing how it ends. I love knowing every minute detail, and then I love reading it. I just enjoy that. So if you enjoy that too, stick around for the spoiler part. If you don't want spoilers, I will say when I'm about to talk about spoilers. I don't expect anybody to really watch this video. This is just small steps lead to bigger things, and I have to start YouTube somewhere. So, yep. But anyways, Landline by Rowell. So like most people, he's in a Superman shirt. He likes wearing shirts. Like most people, my first Rowell book was Eleanor and Park. I read it in the 7th grade, which I should not have been allowed to. But I read it through Audible, who I don't have an Audible account. I never actually had an Audible account. I just got my one free thing, and I used it for Eleanor and Park because, brief side quest, but Eleanor and Park, I thought it was, another thing I no longer support, I thought it was Lily Potter and Severus Snape fanfiction that was just published, which is like, that's insane. That's insane, because it like absolutely, I don't even think it mentions Harry Potter at all. So to think that it was Lily Potter and Severus Snape fanfiction that was published, that was, in my defense, I was like in the 6th grade when I first heard about Rowell. So I feel like that's like a little more excusable. I really have no defense, and I apologize for that behavior. But I read it, I was really just confused, honestly, when I read it. I was like, what just happened? And then as I knew, I guess I didn't have the words for it, but I knew it was bad. And as I've read it for like 5 times now, and I actually can't bear to read it again because it just makes me so sad. I love Eleanor. I'm very protective of her. I think she gets way too much hate. Actually, I don't, nobody talks about Rowell books. She's my favorite author. Eventually she became my favorite author. But nobody really talks about her, so I don't hear like a lot of opinions about her, which is kind of nice, because it's nice to be able to form your own opinion. However, occasionally when I'm like, you know, when you're like in a low moment, so you like stalk your ex's Instagram to feel even worse about yourself. I don't do that anymore because I'm an adult, but I do look at Goodreads reviews of books I love that I know aren't like wildly popular, and have flawed complex female characters. Because one of my favorite things about Rowell is she'll have a character that has flaws, which I like. I don't like morally gray characters. I don't like characters that are evil. I know some people really are a sucker for a villain. Not me. However, I like, what's I gonna say? I like Okay, what I was saying, sorry, my dog is reactive. You'll probably notice over like more of these videos that I'll have to pause if he barks and stuff. He's reactive. We're working on it. He's a shelter dog. He was abused. We're working on it. Anyways, I like a flawed character. I don't like a morally gray character, but I like a flawed character. I don't like my characters to feel perfect. I like when characters have depth to them, and I feel like that's something that there's a lot of hypocrisy in book talk and booktube and bookstagram, where, you know, people will ask for something and then when they get it, they'll say no, not like this, and they'll continuously say no, not like this. So people ask for flawed, complex female characters, and then when they get flawed, complex female characters, they get mad. And I think it really like boils down to people not understanding nuance and people not understanding because they'll be like, oh, this character's too perfect, and so then the next book the characters will be have more depth to them, and then it will be, oh, this character's annoying, I couldn't stand this character. And but I feel like there's two types of morally complex, nuanced characters, and it's ones that have flaws that I like and ones that don't, but maybe three. Ones that have flaws and I don't like them, but I know I'm not supposed to like them, and then like characters that have flaws that everyone else likes and I just hate because I don't think they're excusable. I feel like Rainbow Rowell does a really good job at giving her characters flaws and depth, and it makes sense to me. Even if I don't agree with the character, even if the character's kind of annoying me, it makes sense to me. That's why I have no hatred towards Eleanor from Eleanor and Park, because people say crazy things about her. I have no hatred towards her because she was literally just a teenage girl trying to survive every single thing. Makes sense to me. It's the same with like Katniss from the Hunger Games. I love the Hunger Games. I love Katniss. I just did my 4th read through of the trilogy. I love those books. I'm going to read Sunrise of the Reaping for the first time very soon. I'm very excited. However, Katniss is a flawed character. Katniss is a complex character, but I never got frustrated with Katniss because everything she did made sense. Everything had reason. And I know that's not required. Sometimes a character just does something and it doesn't make sense and it doesn't have reason and it just happens. But to me, if I want to enjoy a character and like a character, I have to understand the character. Even if I don't relate to the character, I have to understand the character. And then I don't read a lot of lit fic. I'm trying to get into it. I think I'd really enjoy it. It's just not something I read. I read a lot of romance and whimsical fantasy. That's like kind of my niche. But I don't read a lot of lit fic, but I plan to soon, and I know most lit fic characters are insufferable. However, that's the point. And so that intrigues me, but I don't think I could ever really like the characters. Whereas Rainbow Rowell, I feel like she does a really good job. It's very hard for me to dislike a Rainbow Rowell character, even with characters in her like later works, like the Simon Snow trilogy with Agatha. Agatha really pisses me off. However, I think she's so well written, and I also think she makes the most sense out of all the characters. I think she's the only sane character. I think everyone else is like caught up in this fantasy world, and Agatha is the only one that just wants to be normal. And I really relate to her for that. And even though she pisses me off, and I wouldn't like her as a person, I really understand where she's coming from. So the point is, Rainbow Rowell does a really good job at like making characters flawed and still making them likable, in my opinion. So like one of the big criticisms of this book when I was feeling low about myself and had to read Goodreads reviews and I just needed an excuse to be mad, was that they didn't like Neil. And I'll get to that more later. But again, I'm an avid Neil defender because everything he does makes sense. And I just feel like it would be so much easier for people to enjoy books if they saw someone's perspective for once. I don't think there's a single Rainbow Rowell character I like actually hate, unless like the point is to hate them. Even Park from Eleanor and Park pisses me off more than Eleanor. I feel like you're in two categories when it comes to Eleanor and Park. You're either a Park girly or an Eleanor girly. I love Park, and again, he's flawed, but he makes perfect sense to me. He is privileged, and he doesn't understand Eleanor, and he doesn't understand what it's like to live in an abusive, broken home, and he doesn't get the sacrifices she has to make, but he is also a teenage boy. He's also a 16-year-old, and I don't expect any 16-year-old to grasp domestic violence. I certainly did it when I was reading about it as a 16-year-old, so why would I expect a 16-year-old who's lover is going through it to understand? I don't. I really don't. So, needless to say, my first book I read by Eleanor, No, by Rowell. Also, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. I have seen so many people pronounce her name in like crazy ways that I know is incorrect, but then she'll like the video because it's like a partnership, and I'm like, that's not how you pronounce it. But I also don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, and I know that's her actual legal name. Her real name is Rainbow. It's not a pen name, which is so funny because she's one of the authors. I love authors that give their characters weird names. Rainbow is kind of a mild thing of that, but it's, you don't hear, I've never read a book with like Eleanor or Park in that. Like, not all of them are weird, but they're just more unique. Even like the semi common ones are still a little more unique. Like Baz, Baz's whole name is, I need to memorize it. I actually really want to memorize it, but Basilton, Tyoris, whatever, Pitch, Baz, like, she comes up with some weird names, and I love when authors do weird, funky names, and my sister, who has characters of their own, is really good at making weird, funky names. They're, one of their characters, there are two main characters in, like, their main TV show is Ginger and Lavender, which are obviously weird, funky names. So I appreciate a weird, funky name. But Rainbow Rowell, her government name, my first book by her was Eleanor Park. And I tried reading Fangirl. Fangirl stresses me out simply because it hits really close to home, because it's about a girl in her freshman year of college who doesn't really know what to do, and she's kind of confused, and she's stressed out, and she doesn't feel really happy with her life. Which is, I don't feel like it's talked about enough, but I feel like a lot of people starting college don't feel happy with their life, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because your life has literally just begun. I'm gonna start my freshman year of college in fall, so I'm 19, so I get it, and I do think it will be really cathartic to read, but it stressed me out too much when I tried reading it, so. But my other book, the book I read after Eleanor Park, years after Eleanor Park, was in 2024. I read Landline. I wanted a Christmas read. It was December. I wanted a Christmas read to finish before Christmas, and I wanted just something cozy and fun. And so I saw that Rainbow Rowell wrote this, and I was like, okay, I'll get that. And at first, I was very scared because, again, the only book I read previously was Eleanor Park, which is a book about domestic violence. So I was like, is Neil going to be an asshole? Is Neil going to be a bad guy? And I personally I don't think the intention when she wrote it was to make you think that he was a domestic abuser. However, I do think the intention was to make you, like, unsure of how to feel about him. So I was nervous, and again, Eleanor Park, so I was nervous, and I ended up loving it, and I love Neil so much. I love Georgie. I love really all the characters, even Seth, even characters like Scotty. The side characters are really well done, in my opinion. I really love the book. I really, 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 really love the book. And so it became a tradition. It started in 2024, and I plan to do it in 2026. I did it in 2025. That I read it every Christmas, and so far I've never been able to finish it before Christmas. However, I have high hopes that I will be able to this year, because I actually started this Friday night. It is Sunday. I finished it today, and I only read 2 chapters Friday night. So I started Saturday. And I finished it today. So obviously I finished it very quickly. Which is very fun, and I do hope when I read it again in during Christmas time in December, I like spread it out a little bit more, just because it's kind of a book that, like, it's a tradition for me, and it's a tradition that's all by myself. I don't need anybody else for it, which is very fun. It's fun to have traditions by yourself. It's fun to do things by yourself. So it's very cathartic and fun, and like it's a staple in Christmas, and it makes me think back to the previous Christmas, and it's just fun. It's just fun. The first time I read it, I didn't finish it till like January 10th, which is crazy. Romance really stresses me out. I don't hear anybody ever talk about this. When I tell people it, they don't think I'm weird, but they're like, oh, I've never heard of that before. That's so strange. Where fiction really stresses me out. Like, I you know, people are like, oh, I'm an empath, I can feel others' emotions. I'm not an empath, but when it comes to fictional characters, I feel their stress, babe. I feel their stress. So I definitely enjoy rereads where I know the ending a lot more than I enjoy my first read through. I don't really ever hear people say that. I personally love a reread, don't love an initial read through. It stresses me out, and I really struggle with romance. The second time I read Landline, it got me back into reading audios books. I've read 20 books now this year, which is very exciting. But it got me back into reading. And now it's gotten me back into physically reading. I plan to start physically reading again, and I started with this one. But I didn't finish till like the 28th, which isn't as bad. But I have high hopes I will be able to finish it in time this year. So, to basically tell you what Landline's about, it is a cozy Christmas read. It's about Georgie McCool and Neil, I don't know Neil's last name. And basically, Georgie works as a, like, I don't know if she's a writer. She works as a writer for TV shows, and she just got a big meeting, and basically they're going to produce her dream TV show, and she's working with her best friend Seth, and they have been working on this since college. They are now 37. Seth's 38, and they're gonna get it produced, but she has to work during Christmas, and she was supposed to go to Omaha during Christmas with Neil and her 2 kids, so she stays back, and Neil basically ignores her the whole time, which, like, to be fair, that is something to be valid to be mad about Neil, like, as a reader. And she calls him through a yellow landline, and she talks to Neil from 1998. Is it 1998? Or 1988? No, 89. She talks to him from the past, and she talks to him from a point in her life where they had, like, broken up for a little bit. I'll read you the back because it will probably do a better job at explaining it, but I hope you, like, kind of understand. Let me read you the back. If you got a second chance at love, would you make the same call? 15 years ago on Christmas Day, Georgie McCool's boyfriend drove halfway across the country to propose to her. This Christmas, he's heading in another direction. Should Georgie follow him? Should she call him and beg him to come back? Something very strange happens when she picks up the phone. Actually, Rowell, that gave me nothing. I would know nothing about this book, so I guess I just gave you spoilers. I'm sorry. Oopsie. Anyways, point is, I am not going to be talking about spoilers. I'm going to be talking like you read the book. So if you comment, which I know nobody's going to comment, nobody's going to watch this, but if you comment and are like, I'm confused, I don't understand, it's because I'm assuming you read the book. I'll kind of explain stuff, but for them, I'm not going to hold your hand, is what I'm saying. The reason I chose to reread it in March, which, like, again, I really had no plan to do. I decided I was going to read it Friday, finished it Sunday, is because I want to get back into physical reading. I personally think audiobooks are reading, and I think if you disagree with me, I don't want to be friends with you. I also think ebooks are reading. Again, that's, like, even more crazy if people don't think like, audiobooks I still think is crazy, but, like, ebooks are, like, especially crazy. But I want to get into physical reading just because it's something I want to get into. I want to do both audio and physical, and I think I'd enjoy physical reading, and I do. So, glad I got back into that, and it's kind of funny because this got me back into reading, and now it's gotten me back into physical reading, so I appreciate that. But I just wanted to talk about how much I love this book. It is a 5-star for me. It was a 5-star when I initially read it. It was a 5-star when I read it last Christmas. It was a 5-star when I read it today. It is such a good book. I love so many things about it. So I did a little, like, analysis on this is my media journal. It's cutesy, right? I usually prefer smaller journals, but I feel like a bigger journal would be good for a media journal. This is actually my first entry that isn't just, like, keeping track of the books I read. So I was very excited about that. But I just want to talk about, like, the things I loved about it and stuff. Again, I'm going to assume you read it, or, like, I'm not going to hold your hand. So, when I read a book, what I'm trying to do, and again, it's really my first time doing it, but the goal is after I read a book, I ask, what did I take away from the book, and what do I want to, like, put into my books, my own works? Like, what's an aspect, or like a character, or dialogue that I want to write similarly in my books. For this book, it was kind of hard because I love Rowell's writing so much. She's my favorite author. I've never related so hard to books. I think I was written by Rowell. You know, people are like, oh, I was written by Lana Del Rey. I was written by The Weeknd. I was written by Rowell. Okay, I was. I very much relate to her. I very much feel like a Rowell character. Stuff will happen in my life, and I'll be like, that's because I'm a Rowell character. You know, so basically every single book I read by her, I have takeaways. This one was a little hard, though, because I don't ever plan to write a Christmas romance. Never say never. You know, I'm not a big seasonal holiday writer. I never have been. I like writing little whips for Christmas and Halloween when it comes to it, and Thanksgiving and stuff. But I personally am not a big holiday, like, I don't think I'd ever commit that hard. I really enjoy Christmas specials and Halloween specials and stuff. Love a Halloween special. However, I'm, like, not the biggest I don't enjoy the holidays. The holidays stress me out. I don't enjoy holidays. I really don't enjoy holidays that much. I love the season of the holidays. I love the vibes of the holidays. I love the feelings of the holidays. But the actual holiday itself, I feel like there's so much expectation that it's never fun. It's never fun. It's never good. It's never a good time. It never is. It's truly, like, always the worst time ever. That's just my opinion. But I will say my main takeaway, like, if I were going to write a Christmas book, is that this doesn't feel like a Christmas book. You could kind of take the Christmas out of it and it's still truly nothing would change, which I like. I prefer. I've never really read a Christmas book where it's like Christmas, you know, and I'm not opposed to it, and maybe I will in December. I truly think one of the most fun things about reading is, like, syncing up to the seasons. Like, summer, reading, like, summer romances, and fall, reading, like, paranormal romances and, like, high fantasies and dark academia. You know, that's fun. So maybe in Christmas, I'm not a big Christmas person. I don't really care for Christmas, but I'm not, like, opposed to reading a Christmas romance. However, I do really enjoy that. Like, I know this is a Christmas romance, and I read it in March. I don't think you'd even be able to tell this was a Christmas book, except for the little holly berry. Is this holly berry? It's not mistletoe, it's holly berry. I don't think you'd be able to tell except for the little holly berry. It's definitely, I don't even think it's like, it doesn't scream Christmas to me. The cover, the blurb, anything, it doesn't scream Christmas to me. The book itself, it doesn't scream Christmas to me, and I did really enjoy that factor. And again, if I were to write a Christmas book, that's the type of Christmas book I would want to write. I wouldn't necessarily need Christmas that much because I don't care that much about the holiday. You know? Anyways, I'm gonna say my favorite part for the end. So, other things I really enjoyed was, again, Georgie. I really like how she definitely had flaws. Like, I never found her annoying. I never found her frustrating, really. But I definitely, like, she was definitely emotionally all over the place. She was definitely emotionally unstable for a lot of it. Not in, like, a scary way, but in, like, my husband left me. It's also, I love the humor. It's so funny. There's, like, running bits throughout it and stuff. And, like, a running bit of, like, Georgie, your husband left you. And she's like, he went for Omaha for Christmas. He did not leave me. And I think that's funny. I do. I really enjoyed like the running bits throughout the she's such a funny writer. I feel like that's my biggest takeaway every time from Rainbow Rowell, like what I want to contribute to my books is like I want to be as funny as her because she is truly the funniest woman alive. She's so funny. She's so funny. So I really appreciate that. Um I loved every single side character. Scotty was really fun. He's one of the people that works with Heather. I enjoyed him. But by far, my favorite was Heather's family. Heather has a mom, stepdad, and a sister. And her sister is like, I don't even know. Her sister, Heather, is 18. Georgie's 37. So they have a really big, really, really huge age gap. And I really enjoyed that. I think that I've never really like read a similar age gap that big. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really fun. I think her and Heather have a really fun dynamic. I really enjoyed Heather as a character. I also found her mom such a funny character. I don't think I necessarily liked her mom, but her mom was such a funny, refreshing take on a mom. I feel like moms are so boxed in and tropey where it's like they're either a monster from hell, which like girl, I get it. Or they're like a super cute, bakes cookies and does puzzles mom. Georgie's mom is sensual. She wears lingerie to bed and she's had many men, you know, and she has 2 fat pugs and she's very funny. She's very a piece of humor. And I enjoyed her mom a lot, but Heather's my favorite character. Not favorite character, but Heather's my favorite side character. I really enjoyed Heather. She was really fun. I really, having her family, having Georgie's family really felt like taking us out of the story almost, in a good way, where it's like everything was going to hell, there was this magical phone, and then Georgie's family was just being Georgie's family, and it was very funny, and I enjoyed that a lot. I also think her dialogue is so well done and so realistic. It feels like real life dialogue, but elevated real life dialogue where everyone's just super funny. And not funny in like a super obvious make your belly hurt laugh way, but in like a, that's just clever. Rainbow Rowell's so clever. She's generally so clever. And every single time there's like a little like 4-part dialogue where it's like Georgie, Neil, Neil's last line or Georgie's last line or Heather's last line is always just so funny. She also has twice now in 2 separate books, Attachment and Landline, mention Jack and Diane, which is very funny to me. If I ever interview her, I'm gonna ask her if she loves that song, because I'm assuming she does. Oh, I also really want to try cream cheese mint now. She mentioned it in Attachment, and she's mentioned the Landline. I really love the way Rainbow Rowell writes about food. She does it in such like a lush way. I'm like, I crave that. I've never tried a cream cheese mint. I'm not from the Midwest. I need one now. I know I'm gonna love it. It's peppermint, it's cream cheese, it's powdered sugar. They look fucking delicious. I need one. I love the magical realism. Another thing I really enjoy about Rainbow Rowell is she doesn't hold your hand. She doesn't leave you clueless. There are definitely other authors that in February read I Who Have Never Known Men. That book doesn't hold your hand. That book actually throws you into a river and lets you drown. You know nothing. But Rainbow Rowell, I really enjoy, and another thing I would love to take away from her is that she doesn't hold your hand and she waits to explain things. So she'll say something and won't give an explanation. And technically it doesn't need an explanation immediately, but she won't give an explanation. And then later on, a couple paragraphs, never too long later, but a couple paragraphs later, she'll explain it, and it fits so perfectly in when she explains it. And I definitely had the problem where I feel the need to instantly explain stuff, and I can't, because I feel like I'm gonna forget, which, to be fair, I usually do. But I think that's a really fun part of storytelling, is letting your readers be trusting your readers to be smart and trusting your readers to remember stuff. And I think it's scary because I don't trust anyone, but I do really enjoy it. The final climax is literally, I think, my favorite climax of a book ever. I think it's so funny. Basically, if you haven't read the book, the final climax is like everything's going on with Georgie and the magical phone and Neil. But two other side plots are that Georgie's sister Heather has been calling for a pizza boy every day. She's been calling for pizza every single day because she's in love with the pizza boy. And she calls for pizza, the pizza boy comes, and meanwhile, how I mentioned the two fat pugs, one of them, Petunia, there's Porky and Petunia. Petunia's pregnant, and Petunia is giving birth in the fucking dryer. And so Georgie runs over and tells Heather, hey, there's a pug giving birth in a dryer. Turns out the pizza boy's a girl, Heather's a lesbian. So that was like the climax of the book, and then it ends with Georgie flying to Omaha to see Neil, which is very cute. But that was, when I first read that, I was like, this is insane. What is happening? This is so funny. So that's the best part of the book for me. It kind of sucks because, like, I don't dislike the ending of the book. I like the ending of the book. I feel like another criticism for the book is going to be, like, I don't think anything was really solved. And that's something I struggle with, too, where I'm like, I don't necessarily feel like everything was solved. But I also think that's the kind of the fun thing about it. It's like, we saw what we saw, and we just have to trust in Georgie and Neil. I don't know. I definitely, like, I understand that criticism a lot more than, like, the Neil criticism. But I also think, like, I just think that's how it is, and I just think we have to accept that. That, like, I think we saw what we saw in the book, and it solved the problem in the book. And I feel like, again, small steps lead to bigger steps. So we saw Georgie finally put Neil first, and that was really all we needed to, and I have faith that they will be okay. I do. But the best part of the book to me is like the climax chapter where Petunia's giving birth and Heather's gay. After that, it's still good, but, like, that's the best part. That's, like, the part I like it. That and finding out the scene, the Halloween party where Georgie and Neil, like, right before they start actually dating, those are the scenes I get most excited to read. Okay. I think that's... Hold on, let me... I also think the way Neil and Georgie met was really funny. They met at, like, the comedy writing office Georgie worked at in college, and Neil did the comics. He drew comics, and that's how they met, and I thought it was really cute. I think it was really cute. Anyways, let's speak of my favorite part of the book, Neil! I love Neil. I love Neil. I love Neil. I think his last name was, like, Grafton or something. That makes sense. Okay. So, Neil to me is one of the sexiest main characters I have ever read. Sexiest MMC I've ever read. I loved him. Loved him. I truly, like, I cannot express how much I loved him. And what I love so much about Neil is physically his description I wasn't that attracted to. For two reasons. One, just because he's 5'6", he's described as a hobbit, he's described as having a double chin, he's described as having, like, short hair, nothing I'm, like, really catching on to. And also, I think because his physical appearance wasn't constantly being described in, like, a smutty way. Don't get it twisted, I have nothing against smut. I may partake. let me partake. You know, let me partake. But nothing against that. I think people, my hot take is I think people who think smut is bad for women, I think they're misogynistic. That's just my opinion. But a lot of the times when you're reading books, the beauty standards are truly evil for both men and women, but women who write men often make them like this 6 foot, 6-pack, beard, chiseled jaw, luscious hair, and like, do I occasionally want that? Yes. I'm going to read Pucking Around by Emily Rath, I think is her name. That's definitely fitting the description. She has 3 boyfriends in that book. I'm excited. However, I like real people in my romance, and the whole book feels so authentically real. Even though there's a magic phone and crazy shit's happening, it feels so real. I love how Neil isn't attractive because of his physical appearance. He's attractive because of his character. I love the way his character is written. He's witty and clever, and he has this perfect sense of dry humor that's so charming and sexy, and I really just genuinely loved it so much. I genuinely devoured it, loved it, ate it up. So, yes. I just loved the way he was written. And again, I didn't read his physical appearance and go, oh. Which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But I know for books I want to write, I want the main characters to feel real. And I want realistic main characters. And I really enjoyed Neil. I'm guilty. I definitely have some sexy 6-foot muscle, biceps as huge as my head characters. I definitely have that. However, I also just really enjoy like a realistic, real man. And I feel like I've been so spoiled by Rowell because all her female characters are also all fat, which I love. They're all big girls, which I love. But also, they're also realistic. But like, I feel like, again, I'm not trying to be like it's harder for men in media, because it's not, but I will say it's hard to find a man who's like, his character is more attractive than his physical appearance. It's hard to find, and I really enjoyed Neil. And I feel like a lot of people got really frustrated with Neil. I think him leaving for Omaha without Georgie was completely fair. I think that's completely fair. Again, I get both sides. Georgie wants to chase her career. She's allowed to want more. But Neil, he takes care of these kids primarily. Like, you know, I get it. I get both sides. And I really understood where Neil was coming from. And I also like how he'd get upset, but he'd never get aggressive. The most he'd do is growl. Usually I'm not into when a man growls. I loved when Neil growls, because it was never like in a sexy way. It was like, I thought it was sexy, but it was never portrayed in a sexy way. It was always in a frustrated way. And I also think it's really funny when men growl, because my dad growls when he's angry. Again, not in a sexy way, but in like a, and I think that's funny. I think that's funny. My dad is a lot nicer than Neil, and that does disturb me, because Neil is gorgeous and my dad is my dad. So that fact does disturb me a lot. But sometimes Neil would say something and I'm like, it feels like I'm reading a romance and my father is the male main character, and that's disgusting. So most of the time it wasn't like that, but occasionally Neil would say something and I'm like, yep, it makes sense. And I think it's less of him reminding me of my dad and Neil just being a dad. Neil's such a dad. Neil's such a girl dad. It's so funny. Generally, it's hilarious. But I loved Neil. I loved Neil so much. I feel like everything he did was completely reasonable. And also, like, him being jealous of Seth. Seth is Georgie's best friend. That's completely reasonable, too. I really understand that. I really relate to that. I get that. Not maybe relate to it, but I get that. Like, jealousy is a normal human feeling. Point is, I love Neil. I don't accept Neil hate. No Neil slander in my house. Thank you. That's it. Let me check over my notes just to make sure. Hold on. I also think he's very cool and mysterious. I think they kept him very, like, guarded in a way. I think he keeps himself very guarded, and I find that very attractive. This book just feels so timeless to me. I wrote that in my notes. This book just feels so timeless. It is, I can read it anytime, any day, anywhere. I'm gonna love it. My last thing I'll say is my other favorite part, besides when they get together, the Halloween party, the pug giving birth, is well, Christ, Georgie, take it off. That is the best part of the book. Neil's so sexy. Except when he's acting like a father. That's disturbing. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for listening to my review. I love this book. Rowell, I love you. I follow you on Instagram sometimes. I tag you in my stories, and sometimes you see it. You don't say anything, but I know you're thinking about me. That's a joke. Yeah. Please go read this book. Please go read all her books. I am slowly making my way through the Simon Snow trilogy. I'm on book 2. So, bye.